let's bring in the guest for the hour, trial attorney Gabriel Sanchez. He's out of Los Angeles, and on the East Coast in Washington, D.C., Jessica Lenningham is with us. Thank you both for joining us. Let's just start with, where are we, and where do you think that this case, last time it was a hung jury, and depending on whether you believe those jurors that spoke out afterwards, they were in favor 12-0 for a not guilty on the top charge. Is this case remarkably different to the point where the outcome is going to be different because the facts theoretically are the same? Jessica, you first.
No, I do not believe that the facts, I mean, yes, it's a different case. Let's face it, the prosecution has entered a lot less witnesses. We don't have the Michael Proctor. They have been more poignant on which experts they have brought in. So on that, they've done a much better job. Do I think it's going to get us a different result? Do I still think we're going to have a hung jury? Yes, and that is because the defense is doing a remarkable job this week alone with that bombshell testimony from the police officer, the very combative police officer, where she's having him correct her name. And then we will have our own, Karen Reed is going to have her own experts as well say, no, this couldn't have happened with the taillight. So I think it's probably going to come back to a hung jury.
Hung jury second time around, no one wants that, Gabrielle. When you think about basically who it's going to benefit, perhaps if Karen Reed gets a not guilty, or rather if she gets a hung jury, they are not going to prosecute her again, but this case still hangs over her head. What does that look like for the defense in the background if there is another hung jury for them the second time around?
Well, it shows they're doing a good job. I agree to an extent. I think, you're not going to change the facts too much, the situation. You might change the way you approach the cross-examinations, the experts you choose. There's different ways you can try the case, but the facts are the facts still. And, I think based on what I'm seeing, it could come to a hung jury again. With the experts they're putting on, you just don't know. Jurors can. I just got out of a 3-week jury trial, and I realized one thing. It's like, you might do a great job on cross-examination. You might make this. You might expose the bias these experts have because they're hired guns. But at the end of the day, it's just how the jury feels about this expert. It's about if they're likable, if they're into their personality. I've seen trials where we just clearly expose the experts or whoever it is that they're just biased. You can't believe their credibility, and then sometimes the jurors just like them for whatever it is, for their personality. So it's hard to tell. I think it's a tough case. You got a hung jury, and the facts aren't changing. You're just maybe changing your approach to try your strategy on the case a little bit. But it's a tough case, and I agree. I don't think I don't know if it's gonna change the result here. And your job as a defense attorney is that you're getting a hung jury, and you're doing your job. And if you get a second one, then maybe the prosecutor will think twice about doing it a third time. So
possible. I don't know about this case. What do you think, Jessica, about this Nicholas Barros? He did testify in the first trial, but he didn't have the impact he did this time around. I mean, he's a cop from a neighboring community. He was there. He saw the tail light in what he says was a different state, where it was just fractured and there was a small hole in it. And then he was very emphatic on the stand, saying it was completely different after it had been transported to the Sally port. You combine that with all of the other allegations that are sort of being put out there about this conspiracy. I mean, this guy's a cop with no axe to grind. How effective was this man on the stand?
He is so effective. And not only does he not have an axe to grind, he went and wrote to the defense's legal team and said, hey, I need to speak my truth. This is wrong. He is a believer in justice, and I think that really came out on the stand. And as I mentioned, earlier, the other female cop who got this huge salary bump when she was moved to Boston after recanting her testimony to a separate agency and said, oh, actually, they weren't in the carport. I think that we're really seeing it's going to be very easy for the jurors to see, wow, it looks like a lot of police misconduct are here. I don't trust any evidence from the police at this point. And I think that he was so huge because he really seemed like he just wanted to do the right, just thing.
Gabriel, looking at what we're talking about with the taillight, if Michael Proctor did plant a piece, perhaps that was found much later than the other pieces, if that is true, is it possible that they're both can be right? These two things can be right, that there was this frame-up job, but also that Karen Reed was the one who slammed into John O'Keefe. And if both are true, does that still mean that she deserves an acquittal since there was this allegation? And if it's true, would that be justice in this case?
I mean, I don't, you know, I don't think there'd be justice. I mean, I think anytime you have some sort of police misconduct or that, you know, it's the people are gonna, the jurors are gonna. It's really up to those 12 people and how they feel about it, you know. And just because there's police misconduct doesn't necessarily mean that this person deserves to go free or get an acquittal verdict. But you know, the prosecutor's job is to prove beyond a reasonable doubt, and you got to and do everything they can to make sure this prosecution's successful. So, if you got cops that are doing they're engaging in misconduct, and you know, then the jurors might punish you for that. So it's really just about how these people feel about it, and you know, it could whether that has a big impact on how they believe she's going to be acquitted or not. I'm not sure, but definitely doesn't help her case. And as a prosecutor, you got to make sure your cops and everyone's doing things by the book. So,
Which this case not happen.
Honestly, yeah.
Jessica, to what extent do, you know, used to be a cop walks into a courtroom, everybody was like, ooh, here comes that guy, I'm going to believe every word that guy says, or woman. That has changed, hasn't it, over the past few, even, you know, at least the last decade or two. And there's something in the water in this area of Massachusetts of disbelief. They don't trust cops. And that's all part of the reason why I believe it's going to be a hung jury again, because there's enough here for a person who's skeptical anyway to go all in. Your thoughts on the way that has changed, basically the dynamic of a police officer on the stand, what it used to be and what it is now?
Well, I think in Boston that hasn't changed. I think we're looking at the past 60 years of them not trusting cops. But in general, yes, it has absolutely changed. And I think it's due to all of the police footage we have seen, right? I mean, you know, with the Floyd case, and obviously we're hesitant to believe them. And in this case, it's so easy to not believe them when you're trying to say, oh, I recanted, but then I got this huge salary bump, you know, and I'm making 75% more than anybody else that's at the same rookie level as me. It's just, it's almost unfathomable to believe them when there's so many discrepancies here. So I agree with you. That's exactly why I think there's going to be a hung jury, because there is something in the water in this town with the police officers.
And it seems like the prosecution has not even tried to take ownership of any of it. They just want to ignore it. They don't want to look at Michael Proctor, don't want to say his name, don't want to go there. Guys, stand by. Great analysis from both of our trial attorneys.